More and more chart watchers are starting to agree. This market looks like it's ready to fire back up, and XRP is right in the mix. In fact, I've gathered insights from several well-followed XRP technical analysts, and the message is getting clearer. The consolidation phase may be wrapping up, and the next leg upward could be right around the corner. Some of these analysts are setting pretty bold targets, big numbers, and honestly, it's tough to ignore, especially when even the more cautious voices in the space are calling for the possibility of XRP reaching double digits. That's right, even the conservative ones are suggesting a major move could be ahead. Are all of them wrong? Personally, I find that hard to believe. I've been following this specific circle of XRP analysts for quite a while. I've noticed a pattern. When a large portion of them start echoing the same outlook, they tend to be right most of the time. Sure, unexpected things happen once in a while, but typically, the most likely scenario plays out. So yeah, I'm pretty excited to show you what I've gathered in this video. If I had to call it, I'd say the uptrend is getting ready to pick up again. It's just a matter of time. Now before we dive any deeper, let me make one thing crystal clear. I'm not a licensed financial professional. None of this is financial advice, and I'm not telling you to buy or sell anything. I'm just a crypto enthusiast who enjoys making videos like this as a hobby. And finally, don't get used to seeing XRP at the price you're seeing right now, $3.19. If these analysts are on point, that won't be considered cheap for much longer. Let's take a look at what chart analyst Crypto Michael had to say. This was posted just yesterday. He made a bold statement. Retail FOMO hasn't even started yet. If you're already calling the cycle top, maybe trading isn't for you. Honestly, I think he's spot on. There are multiple ways to validate that statement. One method I often bring up is checking search trends. Just head over to Google Trends, type in keywords like Bitcoin, XRP, or even just crypto, and see what pops up. You'll notice that everyday people, the general public, still aren't really paying attention to this space. Sure, we saw a slight bump recently when XRP began making moves. And actually, XRP's search interest briefly surpassed Bitcoin globally. I covered that in a recent video. That was a pretty big deal. Still, despite that spike, the wider public isn't piling in yet. The average person isn't glued to crypto charts or digging into altcoin news. But look at what's happening. Bitcoin's been climbing, and the altcoin market has started following suit. Pullbacks in 2025 so far, but now it's starting to feel like momentum is building again. So what does that tell you? Now check this out. Chart analyst Zoom shared an interesting chart, and I think it's worth taking a closer look. The green line you see represents the number of new Bitcoin addresses, while the yellow line shows Bitcoin's price action. There's something very telling here. According to Zoom, Bitcoin has doubled in price since it last hovered around the $60,000 level back in August 2024. But despite that massive move, the number of new addresses being created hasn't increased. It's basically stuck at the same level. So, what does that tell us? Retail investors, the average person, haven't really jumped in yet. This rally, it looks like it's being fueled mostly by institutional players and seasoned crypto participants, not by everyday people. Honestly, you can see this trend across the board. Whether you're looking at Google search interest or wallet creation data, it's obvious that the general public isn't fully engaged in this market right now. But institutional money, been pouring in. There's tons of evidence supporting that. So now, think about where prices are. Bitcoin hovering around $120,000. XRP up at $3.19, and that's all without the retail mania we've seen in past bull markets. Imagine. What happens once the masses actually start to notice? It's going to be a flood. And here's the thing about human psychology, as irrational as it might be, most people don't want to invest heavily when an asset is cheap or moving sideways. That's usually when it makes the most sense. But that's not how most people think. When prices skyrocket, that's when retail FOMO kicks in. So once the headlines go wild, Bitcoin's breaking records, or XRP explodes, you better believe the average investor is going to start jumping in. And at that point, we could see an avalanche of fresh money coming into the space. Just let that sink in. Bitcoin and XRP are already at these levels before the wave of public attention has even hit. Once it does, things could go absolutely off the rails. Zoom nailed it with this one. It's about to get wild. Let's dive into this post from chart analyst Rect Capital. He shared a Bitcoin USD chart and made a pretty compelling observation. Noted that Bitcoin briefly dipped below its current range for the second time this week, but now appears to be trying to reclaim that lower boundary as support again. And what's more interesting is that these dips are becoming less severe as we're starting to see a higher low begin to form. It's typically an early sign of a trend reversal. So what does all that mean in plain English? Bitcoin looks like it's gearing up for a move higher, and that lines up perfectly with how market cycles usually wrap up, a final parabolic run. And when that happens, altcoins don't just follow, they often explode past Bitcoin in terms of percentage gains. And guess what? Analyst Khalil is clearly seeing the same thing. Just posted yesterday that Bitcoin looks ready to blast through to a new all-time high. Whether that breakout happens today, tomorrow, or sometime soon, he's expecting it. Imminently, he's not alone either. Mikey Bull Crypto also shared his take, saying Bitcoin has followed his predicted path perfectly and is now primed for the next leg up, straight into price discovery. And I keep seeing this same bullish sentiment across the board. Honestly, at this point, it would feel unusual if we didn't see that explosive move. That kind of parabolic climax has shown up in every cycle. Why would this one be different? Now take a look at the crypto total market cap, but with a twist. This particular chart excludes the top 10 coins by market cap, focusing on what's called others, essentially altcoins ranked 11 through 125. So XRP isn't included here, but that doesn't really matter when altcoins start going. They all tend to go, it's just how it works, as this post says. Now do you believe? Referring to the breakout pattern playing out right now. The double bottom, or double tap that formed in 2024, is now repeating in 2025. And last cycle, that exact pattern led to a massive upside move. And we're already up nearly 15% from that formation. Momentum is building, and it's just the beginning. Why does this matter? Because let's be honest, the life-changing returns in crypto aren't coming from Bitcoin anymore. It's not at this point in the cycle. Sure, Bitcoin could hit $1 million one day. Who knows? But in this cycle, the real opportunity is in altcoins. Bitcoin's already made a huge move, altcoins. Still severely undervalued by comparison. That's where the upside is. Another strong post comes from chart analyst Mustache. He shared the others BTC chart again. That's altcoins excluding the top 10 priced in Bitcoin. He highlighted a massive falling wedge pattern that's been forming over 4 years, and it's finally nearing a breakout. He says once this pattern breaks, we could see wealth creation on a whole new level. And let's not forget, if you're tracking Total 2 or Total 3 charts, which include XRP, the picture looks just as bullish. Whether XRP is in the specific index or not, it moves when the broader altcoin market moves. It's how it's always been. One last one here from Cryptolica, and I love this quote. Easy money XRP season. You know exactly what that means. It's that short, magical window during alt season when almost everything you touch seems to turn to gold. You feel like a genius until the music stops and the bubble bursts. But between now and then, it's the fun part. And right now, he's projecting XRP to hit around $5.50 in the short term. That's where this could be headed, and fast. Not outlandish at all, this is just the warm-up. Let's take a look at what Chart Nerd, the chart analyst, had to say. He made a bold call. XRP hitting $27 while it was still trading under 50 cents. That was 8 months ago. At the time, XRP hadn't even cracked $1, and yet he was already forecasting an all-time high for 2025. Laying out his path to that $27 mark. Fast forward to now, and YouTube is picking it up. Things are heating up, and suddenly, those once crazy targets, they're not sounding so crazy anymore. It's funny how that works, right? Nothing major has fundamentally changed. But once the price inches higher, people start believing. What was once dismissed as hype starts sounding like foresight. That's crypto for you. Just look around. Like almost any coin with a bit of history behind it. What happens? The entire space moves in waves. And when it moves, it moves. We're talking about serious, life-altering jumps. So to say XRP can't do the same, that mindset has never held water. It's been artificially held back for years. And now it's catching up fast. That's the phase we're in right now. This thing has the potential to explode in value compared to where it's sitting today. Yeah, I genuinely believe that. Here's a fresh post from chart analyst XRP. He's pointing out that the Fibonacci levels overhead could serve as potential take-profit zones during XRP's third wave. He also says he expects this wave to overextend, possibly hitting as high as $13, right in the middle of his broader $10 to $15 price target range. And this is yet another example of an analyst who's confidently forecasting double-digit XRP and not decades from now. He believes it's coming sooner than later. Whether or not he nails it exactly, I'll say this, $15 doesn't sound outlandish anymore. In fact, for this cycle, that kind of move is well within reach. Let's be real. A year ago, people were saying XRP would never even touch $3 again. Never. And now, where are all those geniuses? You know the ones dropping their hot takes online, acting like they knew it all with their keyboard warrior energy and inflated confidence. Now, total silence. Vanished. Funny how loud they were when XRP was struggling. How quiet they've become now that it's back on the move. Let's shift to a post from Z Greg Crypto, another respected analyst. He's observing that XRP is currently holding strong above the 21-day EMA. He also points out we're seeing those long-legged candlesticks forming a classic sign that bulls are stepping in to defend this level. Combine that with declining trading volume, and it's pretty clear selling pressure is cooling off. That's a very encouraging signal. Bulls can now step it up and push volume higher. We could break above that downward sloping trend line and flip the 21 EMA into firm support. But if momentum fizzles, there's a chance we dip back under the 21 EMA and another correction could follow. Either way, ZGREG makes a solid point here. The setup is looking more bullish than bearish, and the next few days could be critical. This comes from chart analyst Bobby A. He made it clear no matter what XRP does today, it's tomorrow or next week, it's ultimately heading much higher. Let that really sink in. Short-term dips, totally normal. This market doesn't move in a perfect, uninterrupted climb. Of course, there will be pullbacks. That's just part of the journey. But in the grand scheme of things, none of that truly matters. What matters is whether or not you're in position when XRP explodes to new all-time highs and takes the world by surprise. And for me, I've made sure I'll be ready. I bought my XRP over the years, and now I simply hold. I'm not chasing price. I'm not overthinking it. I believe that eventually the rest of the world will catch on to what many of us already see, the massive potential of crypto, especially XRP. Couldn't agree more. And it's happening. Chart analyst Bark just posted that XRP is gearing up for what could be the biggest rally we've ever seen. His message? Don't sit this one out. And honestly, I agree. In terms of USD value, I think XRP is on track for its most explosive move yet. I'm on board with that idea, no doubt about it. Now, another respected analyst, Dark Defender, recently shared a bold prediction, one that I respectfully push back on. He mentioned some specific price levels, including 117 for XRP, and I say this with all due respect. That number sounds completely unrealistic to me for this current cycle. I'm not saying 3-digit XRP can never happen, just that the odds of it playing out this time around are pretty much zero in my opinion. Look, I'll gladly admit if I'm wrong. I've got no ego tied to this. If we do see that kind of price action, I'll own it. I'll say he nailed it. Didn't. And honestly, I'd be thrilled for myself and for everyone who's been holding strong. But the amount of capital that would need to flood into the market to hit those levels just doesn't seem feasible at this stage. And to be clear, Dark Defender has made some great calls in the past. He's correctly tracked XRP's recent movements and was ahead of the curve when it came to this cycle's breakout. So I still take his analysis seriously. I just respectfully disagree on this particular prediction. He also mentioned that XRP is finishing its cooling off period and is about to heat up again, targeting wave 3 levels like $13.13, $18.22, and $36.76. That I can see. And I'd love to see XRP silence the doubters and bring in a wave of excitement. Even said June and July were hot, but August could be even bigger, and I wouldn't be surprised if that turns out to be true. As for $117, I just can't take that number seriously right now. Again, no offense, just my honest take. It's not about tearing anyone down. It's okay to disagree, and that's all this is. If it somehow happens, great, I'll celebrate with you all, but realistically, not this cycle. That's just where I stand. And of course, this isn't financial advice. Make your own decisions and do your own research before making any moves.